I want to start this episode by paying tribute to my grandma Bev, who passed away March 28th at the age of 96. I could inundate y'all with stories about her impeccable character, like when she was a teenager in the 1940s and decided to take all of her extra money that she made working to help support her family and donate it to Holocaust survivors. But instead, I'd like to share a story tailor-made for this podcast. When I was 13 years old, I got a call from Grandma Bev. She said to me, "Dove, you know I love you, and I think Kurt Cobain was an incredibly talented musician, but next time you visit, could you please remove him from the background of my computer? I'm pretty sure it was you that set my background to him." Yeah, it 100% was me. Rest easy, Grandma. I mentioned back in the Oasis episode that I never really felt like a quote-unquote cool kid until I picked up the guitar in middle school. Well, that isn't entirely true. As I mentioned in episode number 5, Blink-182 was probably the first contemporary band that played instruments that I fell in love with. Part of the reason for my strong feelings for the group lends itself to the second verse of their biggest hit, All the Small Things, when in a rare moment where we hear Tom DeLonge mutter something not about aliens, he sings, quote, "Late night, come home, work sucks, I know." Keyword, sucks. Now, I didn't realize why this word was considered naughty, but I knew it was bad, and singing along to that line and in turn verbalizing the 4 letters associated with fellatio made me feel like a badass, like a rebel. A couple years later, I became more familiar with some of the naughty words we weren't allowed to say, most notably fuck and damn it. Anytime I said these words around peers, I felt a mix of guilt and pride. I felt that there was something so inherently hardcore about cursing. While I didn't have many peers or family members that tolerated my new filthy language, as elementary school turned into middle, it became far easier to be around certain friends that not only accepted my incorporation of vulgarity, but joined in. While the opportunities for verbalizing my dirty vocabulary increased its abundance, the spirit of the profanity hadn't yet lost its sting. So when I heard a rapper or a rock singer utilize swear words in their work, even if the style of music wasn't my cup of tea, I would internally give a nod of approval. Now, as I've only mentioned like roughly 6,000 times on this podcast, in 7th grade my taste in music gravitated almost exclusively to 60s and 70s classic rock with a bit of room for 90s alternative. Of course, every now and then I would hear songs on the radio that would be reminiscent of components found within bands of those labels, and I could kinda appreciate them, like the guitar solo in What Hurts the Most by Rascal Flatts, or the hard-hitting drums in Sugar We're Going Down by Fall Out Boy. But aside from that, anything else sucked, and I hated it, and I hated you too for liking it. Yeah, I probably should have been in therapy then. Anyways, there was one song that came on the radio frequently and was the slow dance song at virtually every bar or bat mitzvah I attended. It was mellow and catchy and acoustic. But no guitar solo, no pounding drums, no funky bass, no Robert Plant-esque screams, and worst of all, not even the potentially redeeming act of cursing. Or so I thought. I can't remember exactly where I was when that last notion became debunked, but I have a premonition that it occurred in my sister Rachel's first car, which was a silver Saab, in the spring of 2006. While iPods were still all the rage, the use of aux cables to connect those devices to the car stereo wasn't ubiquitous yet, so many people, my sister included, created playlists on iTunes and burned them onto a blank CD. I have no memory of this, but I'm about 95% sure that my sister burned a playlist onto a blank CD that she labeled as Chill Mix with a red Sharpie. One song that made its way onto Rachel's car stereo was that mellow and catchy and acoustic song that I'd been hearing on the radio and at bar mitzvahs and on my crush's MySpace pages. My understanding of the song up to that point was it was some dude singing about his appreciation of some girl's physical appearance, presumably out of his league. As I share this story, I am well aware that the song possesses a more gloomy backstory. Apparently, the singer of the song tells the true story of seeing his ex-girlfriend on the London Underground with a new boyfriend. As I mentioned, Initially, nothing about the song resonated with me. However, listening to an unedited version of the song in my sister's car from that blank CD, most likely labeled Chill Mix with a red Sharpie, presumably on her way to grab a Crunch Wrap Supreme from Taco Bell, I heard the singer recite in the second verse, quote, "Yeah, she caught my eye as we walked on by. She could see from my face that I was fucking high." The artist, of course, James Blunt, and the song You're Beautiful. Upon hearing Blunt swear, the previously uncool song became badass in my eyes. While I wouldn't say it publicly at the time, after hearing that profanity inclusive second verse, Mr. Blunt received my internal nod of approval. Despite Blunt's country of origin of England, You're Beautiful became an incredible success in the United States, peaking at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March of 2006. After the success of the song, I anticipated James Blunt to be a chart-topping pop star for years to come, but that never really panned out in the US. While he amassed a substantial fan base, evidenced by 6 top 5 charting albums, he never again cracked the top 40 on the Billboard Hot 100. Given its development within my sense of appreciation, its charm, and its ability to have stood the test of time, I consider You're Beautiful to be the defining one-hit wonder of my adolescence. I'm Dove Brenner, and this is Hotcakes from a 90s Stand. Today, I will be presenting the podcast's second Mount Rushmore. I will unveil my Mount Rushmore of 90s one-hit wonders. To construct the list, I avoided simply naming my 4 favorite one-hit wonders of the 90s because, of course, that would make too much sense. So I wanted each song to reflect something directly connected to my perception of childhood. The first song I wanted to include on my Mount Rushmore had to be a tune full of the feels because feeling intense emotions, especially in reaction to music, was a key component of my days in the 90s. I also wanted a silly song for the second one because anyone between the age of 0 to 6, as I was in the 90s, is inherently silly. I felt the third song should be one that makes you want to dance because the phrase "dance like no one's watching" could easily be replaced and improved with the words "dance like you're a kid again," because dancing will never be as fun as it was at my brother's bar mitzvah or at Camp Hillcroft's dance block. And finally, I wanted to pick just an overall good song. One that, while a one-hit wonder, holds up now in 2024, because for me, timeless songs like Red Hot Chili Peppers' Scar Tissue or My Hero by the Foo Fighters hit different since I remember hearing them for the first time in my early days of elementary school. Before I reveal the Mount Rushmore of 90s one-hit wonders, I do want to make y'all aware that this episode will be a bit different as the monologue will end in just a second and the rest of the episode will include my guest. My guest today moved to Florida from Mexico in 2007. I met him in 2008, and he has been one of my best friends ever since. He's a pop culture savant. There isn't a movie, music artist, or TV show he doesn't know about. So I know that his Mount Rushmore of 90s one-hit wonders is going to be legit as hell. I'm incredibly fortunate to welcome Mr. Alejandro Castillo.
Thank you, Dub. Thank you so much. And in the words of genius, cultural musical genius, music can change the world because it can also change people. Bono.
Why am I having you on this podcast again?
Because we need.
Thank you for that. But before I get into it, I've been having this. I have a question for you because
Hmm?
I don't know about you, but like the allergies here in Atlanta are killing me. So what's the allergies like right now in Orlando?
They're not as bad as they were about like the change of season about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. It's every now and then it's pretty bad, but not as terrible as like just the turn of the spring and the fall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I wonder if because I mean again, I know nothing about this topic, but I wonder if anything has to do with the fact that you're in Florida, so it gets a little bit warmer a little bit earlier. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But point being, the allergies have just been it's been a rough time. But anyways, this is not an allergy podcast. So let's just get right into it. You sound good?
Sound good?
All right. So tell me, what music have you been listening to most recently?
Oh, it'd probably be easier to list the things that I haven't been listening. The new Vampire Weekend album is genius. I mean, Idols, they're one of my new favorite bands. I've been getting really into like reggae because I just came back from a festival, local festival called Groves Inn. I've never actually heard of it, but it's kind of like white boy reggae, But they did have like Milky Chance, Manic Focus, 2 Feet, which I wasn't familiar with. But it's a nice combination blend of like reggae with electronic. Like the vibes were high. That's just a couple of things I've been listening to. Some hip hop, old school Nas, Wu-Tang. Yeah, that's pretty much. I'll leave it at that because then
So
we.
a little bit of everything, and we love to hear that as as somebody that you've listened to the episodes of this podcast before. You know that I definitely support an eclectic mix of music to check out. So love that for you. What music were you spoon fed as a child? I don't think I really asked you this.
Pretty much everything from the Beatles up to modern hits from the era. I mean, my dad was more Journey, classic, Billy Joel, Queen, and my mom was more like top 40 Mexican pop, whatever was on the radio, as well as like 80s new wave. Um, there's a popular club here in Orlando. I'm sure you're aware of it. Barbarella, shout out Barbarella, which is like, they play 80s on a Saturday night. So it's definitely like basically what I was spoon-fed as a child.
So I know you said like, the Mexican top 40. I know we've talked about before, but like Maná, was that like an artist that you were spoon-fed when you were younger? Did you discover them kind of a little bit later?
My nut is so my it's a complicated story because they used to be on MTV and on the radio and they were a popular band, but my mom did have an interaction with them actually. She was a waitress back in the day and she got to assist them, serve for them, and apparently they were like such douchebags to her and her friend.
Yeah, that checks out, That checks out.
But when you're famous, let me do
That's what they say, never meet your idols.
it. Exactly.
When did you start discovering music on your own?
Around when I was like 11, the years are kind of vague. I remember when I was little, I had there's like this like Mexican Spanish speaking pop band called Timbiriche, and it was like kind of like the big band when I was a kid. So I remember getting like their CD when I was a child, and then Blooming Group was like a revelation to me. I'm like, whoa, music can be more than just guitar, drums, and bass. And then Gorillaz after that was like
Yeah.
pretty much the
You know that
first. Yeah, go
No,
ahead.
that makes like a whole lot of sense that you would be in the Blue Man Group because it's like I can see there being like an umbilical cord between your interest getting from Blue Man Group to Gorillas. I can see the relationship.
Yeah, yeah, basically everything that was not top 40 radio that sounded alike, anything that sounded like a left curve kind of got my attention, basically.
Yeah. And yeah, that's super interesting. I just because I always wondered that about, your email address. Don't worry, I won't give it out over the airwaves. But I was wondering, I was like, oh, I didn't know what that was in reference to, but now I kind of get, and that's really cool. I saw Blue Man Group when I was like in fifth grade.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, I just remember thinking like, what the fuck is this? Like
Oh, it blew my
yeah,
mind.
I was, yeah. How old were you when you first like got into Blue Man Group?
Think it was like 12. My dad took me to Vegas and it's like, we went to see like Medieval Times, Excalibur, what's his name, that magician? Not David Copperfield, but the Lance Burton. And like, my dad was like, "Oh yeah, it's in the school," and in my mind, it's just like Blooming Group, Blooming Group, Blooming Group. That's cool, but it's not Blooming Group. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely unique as hell.
Hmm.
So let's get right into the topic at hand. So before we kind of get into our Mount Rushmore, um, I want to know like, where you're coming from. So how would you define a one-hit wonder?
It definitely has a different definition back when. Definitely had a different meaning especially in the 80s and 90s. You know what I mean? Now with the streaming era, it's kind of like a different meaning. I'm not sure if you can actually have a one-hit wonder in the cultural zeitgeist, but
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with that. I feel like one-hit wonder, like the way that we identify it, kind of expired around the early 2010s, I feel like.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it's such a different cultural significance because
yeah,
it's mostly you don't hear music much on the radio anymore. They might play one or two songs, but mostly like I always say that the industry creates the icons, and the reason that is because they give so much airplay on the radio or to specific songs, be it Beyonce,
Right.
Madonna back in the day, whoever you want, Miley
Yeah.
Cyrus.
Well,
But
it's like they like it's like yeah, it's like what you mentioned, like that whole payola scandal. You know what I mean? Like you had
yes,
artists that were just paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to DJs to play their music. Like that would be a useless like crime nowadays because like
oh yeah.
very few people are getting their music or the bulk of their music listening from the radio.
And it's an interesting dynamic now when we take into consideration AI. How is that going to affect one-hit wonders in the future?
Yeah,
One.
yeah, for sure. But just going back to my question, like I mean, how like for you, what make what makes a one hit wonder?
So, in most basic sense, from what I have understood, is when a band, an artist releases a song that is so popular, just and they can live off of just that one song that everybody in the zeitgeist can just know that band, that one song, where it's like, well, what about this other song? And they're like, wait, who, what? Never heard of that. It's like, of course you haven't because you only know this one. This band out of the one song they had, their one hit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really like that definition a lot. But for me, the way that I kind of went about considering a one hit wonder, and I guess I kind of, violated the terms that I created, but to me, like a one hit wonder is like a huge hit that, huge on the charts, still to this day, like huge on the streaming platforms, made the band like a household name for, at least a minute.
Mm,
But then just kind of never like lived up to the hype, never was able to duplicate that. And so I kind of use like the top 40, like if they didn't crack the top 40 again, although I do have one exception to that, which we'll get into. So that's kind of how I went about considering a one hit wonder, right? Obviously, talking about the 90s. But before you kind of tell me about how you went into you making your Mount Rushmore, your Mount Rushmore of 90s one hit wonders, I kind of want to tell you a little bit about like where I came from.
mhm,
And so like to me, I kind of, I'm a 90s kid, you're a 90s kid, and so I really I wanted the songs to really represent, the childlike spirit, so I was like I wanted to have a song that was silly because obviously at that young age, as we were in the 90s, that's, peak silliness. I wanted a song to give me the feels because like when you're young and you feel things for the first time, you feel it so strongly. And then I wanted to have a song that like would make me dance. 'Cause I remember when I was a kid, just like loving to dance and like, not really caring what other people thought.
mhm.
Obviously not something that I can not something that has defined my adult life in terms of dancing. Um, and then just wanted just like some song that I just really thought was a good song because I feel like the 90s was for me the time when I like really heard just some really good songs for the first time. Obviously, like the songs that you listen to, children's songs or just like, top 40 pop hits, like they're catchy and they stick with you, but you might not really, think that they'll stand the test of time. But there are certain songs that you'll hear during that time that are just that really strike you as a good song. And that's definitely what happened to me, whether it was like my parents showing me the Beatles or the Beach Boys or hearing like the Chili Peppers, or even like the first time that I heard Time Your Life by Green Day. I was like, man, this is just like a really good song. So that's kind of, so I wanted one song. So I wanted a silly song, a song that gave me the feels. I wanted a song that made me dance and just like an overall good song. So that's
Mhm.
how I came up with um my Mount Rushmore, and now I want to hear about how you came up with your Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, that's something I was kind of like getting at when I was asking you when you first proposed the idea, and I was like making my list, and I'm like, wait, duh, what about without mentioning anything specific, not to give anything away? I was like, well, what about this band? I mean, they were so huge in England, but here they only are known for one song, and you're like, well, I guess it's technically not a one-hit wonder, so I guess they be saved more for the back burner, or like the honorable mentions, I guess more so. So it's gonna be interesting when I give you my list and see what you think, but I think it's more like songs that are no-brainers, that are like you hear them and you're like, okay, yes, automatic. That's it. That's you can't really think of any more songs out of their repertoire, at least, without looking them up.
Right, right. So you ready to do it?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So my for my first honorable mention, I chose Possum Kingdom by Toadies.
Ooh.
You know that song?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So
Shout out.
just
Shout
for
out Guitar Hero 2.
it was on Guitar Hero too.
That's how I found about it. Found out
Really?
about
Yeah, I heard that song for the first time. I think I was in middle school, and I'm gonna get to that in a second, but just kind of tell the audience a little bit about this song. So this was released by a Texan post-grunge band, as I mentioned, Toadies, their 1994 debut album Rubberneck. The song wasn't like a pop hit, but it peaked at number 4 on the rock charts.
it.
And the song, like the lyrics of the song, it's set in the North Texas park, like aptly named Possum Kingdom, right?
Hmm.
Um, the bizarre yet catchy hard rock song explores frontman Vaden Todd's love for horror. Todd wrote Possum Kingdom in conjunction with Rubberneck's closing song "I Burn." That song's about a guy that gets wrapped into a cult that promotes self-immolation as a means of transcending the natural world for spiritual purity. And the Possum Kingdom is basically a sequel to that. So where the cult member's ghost returns to Earth, to Possum Kingdom State Park in North Texas, to find a mate to self-immolate with and join him in the netherworld. The macabre, so this is kind of funny. The macabre imagery led to a strong presence of vampire enthusiasts at their concerts.
So
Um,
people wearing like goth. So basically Barbarella, like people dress like vampires. That's funny.
is that what happens at Barbarella?
Oh yeah, I mean basically just like the
Sh-
goth vibe, like emo before it was emo, I guess. Or I guess
Shout
emo
out.
was the thing, yeah.
I'm sorry. What was that last thing you said? I'm sorry.
I guess emo was a thing, so I guess you had a emo before it was like the
Yeah.
mainstream emo, Panic at the Disco.
Yeah. But yeah, shout out there to the Orlando vampire enthusiasts that, frequent Barbarella.
Yeah,
Um,
shut up.
so just back to Toadies, the band that did Possum Kingdom. Their only other song to chart on the album didn't even crack the top 20 on the rock charts, and they didn't release their follow-up album until 2001, and they haven't had a single anywhere near as successful as Possum Kingdom.
Hmm.
For me, the reason I love this song is because the out-of-pocket lyrics are just infectious, and the guitar work it's loose, but it's really memorable. Also, the screaming of "Do you want to die" repeatedly at the end of the song is pretty wild, and that was like on mainstream radio.
Yeah.
Um, but unfortunately, I can't put it on my Mount Rushmore because I don't remember hearing the song until middle school. That's like, i.e., long after we breathed the sigh of relief after Y2K didn't do jack shit. So I don't associate the song with the 90s as much as others. Also, while it was a big rock hit, like I said, it didn't resonate with pop audiences, so it's kind of hard to put it up there with the likes of some other tunes that became, pretty much like cultural phenomena.
Yeah.
So that's my spiel about Possum Kingdom. Do you have any questions or comments before you share your first honorable mention?
It kind of reminds me because I think for the longest time I always thought that was Stone Temple Pilots for a while. Like
Checks
I
out.
was, I was like, oh wait, that song is kind of like an earworm. It's stuck in my head, and like after playing Guitar Hero 2, I was like, kind of went through like a period where I forgot about it, and then it kind of popped in my head, like the melody, and I was like, oh yeah, it's Stone Temple Pilots, right? So I'd be looking Stone Temple Pilots like the Holy Scarfy, be like, where's that song? Where's that song?
But anyways, my guy, what was your first honorable mention?
Okay, so. I'm just gonna get it out of the way, put it out of the way, and if it doesn't qualify here, because I know your criteria might be different, I can choose a different one.
Hmm.
But my honorable mention, just to like get things out of the way, song two by Blur.
Okay.
Do
No,
you
that's well, in the United States, that was probably their only hit in the United States. No, was it?
exactly? And I guess that's why it's more of an honorable mention, because when you look at just the US, that is a song. Song two is as much as a one hit wonder as it can be like what's another one that's not on my list that's like a hot take on me,
Right, right.
Super famous
Well,
song
it's
nobody
yeah,
can
and I
everybody
think it
knows.
is. What's that?
A super famous song that everybody knows.
Right. And I think it's kind of hard, I guess, like to consider Blur a one hit wonder because obviously they had like so many hits in England, and then they had obviously in the 21st century with Damon Albarn's success with Gorillaz. So
Hmm.
it's like kind of hard to consider them one hit wonders, but like to my knowledge, in the United States, I guess that's like their hits. So it qualifies to me. I'll take it.
And I keep finding people that I'm like just last night I met some people and the obligatory, oh, you guys know Gorillaz? Talk came up and I was like, yeah, do you know the singer of Gorillaz, the singer of Blur? And they were like, wait, no what? They had like no idea. I'm like, you still keep finding people like that, and
Yeah.
they just had us.
Well,
Oh yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
well, in all fairness, I mean, I feel like Damon Albarn did kind of a 180. I mean, Gorillaz didn't really sound like Blur in any way, really. I mean, I'm not a big Blur listener, but or a Gorillaz listener, but that's kind of the perception that I have.
Yeah, no, you're right for sure because it doesn't take three more people. It just takes
Yeah,
one person to write
yeah.
this and the
Um,
collaborator.
but is
No,
there
but
anything?
They
Is
just
there?
played Coachella actually last weekend, and I don't know if you've seen. They've been making the news because apparently the crowd was so lame, and like Damon, is trying to pump the crowd up, and nobody's singing along. He's like, "We're never coming back here, so you might as well sing it what you can," and nobody's sang.
Yeah, well, I don't think and this is no offense to the Coachella goers, but I feel like that audience is not really known to be the best crowd.
Damn, shots fired.
Well, no, I just remember like, yeah, I guess that's kind of harsh, but I remember like when Outkast got back together and they did their first show at Coachella,
Yeah.
and like people were just like standing there, not even dancing. I'm like, what are you doing?
Like,
But anyways, but I guess like I am biased. Like you and I were Bonnaroo people. So
yeah, yeah.
I guess I'm biased. Is there anything else you want to add about Blur or Song Two or?
I guess it's even more relevant more now than ever. I mean, just the other day, where oh yeah, there's like this like organization in France called like 1,000 rock musicians or something like that along this lines, and they meet up in stadiums, and it's 1,000 musicians in on stage performing like famous songs, and they play like Seven Nation Army, Foo Fighters, but then they'll play like song two, and I feel like it's part of that repertoire of like if you're gonna choose modern hits from like 90s 2000s, like that's gotta end up in there somehow, a song that everybody knows.
Yeah, it's wild that you just mentioned that because my friend who was actually he was Matt Lule, who was a guest on the Oasis episode, sent me the other day what you just said, the 1,000 musicians
Hmm.
playing whatever, and he said it because they played Supersonic by Oasis because it was the 30-year
Hmm.
anniversary of that.
Right on, right on. Yeah,
So
I,
that's
I
why,
never
yeah,
heard of them.
I didn't check it out, but I definitely need to. That sounds super cool. So want to get on to the next one?
Sure.
All right, so I chose, and I'm sure you know this. I hope you know this. "Sex and Candy" by Marcy Playground.
Is this another honorable?
This is, yeah, yeah. So I have
Okay.
two more honorable mentions. Yeah,
All right, gotcha, gotcha.
but you know the song "Sex and Candy."
It rings a
It's
bell.
like it goes like, "I smell sex and candy."
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, yes,
yeah.
yes, definitely.
So it's by Marcy Playground. They're an alternative rock band. They formed in 1994 when frontman John Wozniak moved from Olympia, Washington, to New York and started playing with a dude named Jared Cutler. And they started recordings. And over the years, multiple lineup changes have occurred so often that Marcy Playground is basically a pseudonym for John Wozniak.
Hmm.
Marcy Playground, they released their debut self-titled album in February of 1997. The album didn't really gain any traction until April of 1998 when its third single, "Sex and Candy," entered the Billboard Hot 100 and ended up peaking at number 8. The laid back, part blues, part grunge, and part folk, quote unquote, slacker anthem was inspired by a sexual encounter that Wozniak had with his girlfriend when he was 18 years old. As they were hooking up, the roommate of Wozniak's girlfriend walked in and said, smells like sex and candy in here, which was a line that always stuck with him and ultimately became the trade off of the tune. The rest of the tune describes the musings of youthful lust with some silly terms like disco lemonade and disco superfly, really honing in on disco for some reason.
I,
Sex and Candy,
I feel
really
like
a
a lot
bit
of songs were written that way in the 90s, weren't they?
yeah,
Smells like, and then something.
smells like teen. Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's true. Those are two iconic 90s songs. Smells like Teen Spirit, smells like Sex and Candy.
So the smells
Um,
were a big thing in the
the
90s.
smells were a big thing. And
Sorry to interrupt.
no, you're good. You're good. But to me, Sex and Candy really epitomizes the term one hit wonder because after their debut album, which peaked at number 21 on the Billboard Hot 200 albums chart, they never cracked that chart again, and they have never had another single to even end up on the Billboard Hot 100, let alone top 40. For me, I love this song because it's one of the first rock songs I remember hearing. So a lot of my fondness for it, comes from nostalgia. But I also just love how sleazy it sounds. You know, it sounds like Wozniak had a couple steel reserves before recording it. But I also love how in sync the vocals and guitar and the chorus, and I like the rhythm and the melody of um how the I really like how the rhythm and the melody of both tracks line up perfectly. However, the reason it didn't make my Mount Rushmore is because it doesn't really give me the feels. It's the complete opposite of danceable, and while it's silly, it's not really memeable, if you will, like the song that I chose for my Mount Rushmore.
Mm.
And while I think it's a good song, I wouldn't quite say it's a great song. So that is what I have to say about Sex and Candy. I know it's not really a song that you're as familiar with, but do you have any like questions or comments?
I definitely found it when I was going along, and I definitely made the list from my own point of view and my own memory, thinking like, okay, what are some songs that I know that are one hit wonders, and I kind of don't want to say cheated, but I was like, okay, let me see what a playlist I can find on Spotify and see what I can pinpoint. And that was one of the songs that was in there. I'm not super familiar with that song. It wasn't like a song that was like um, up and about growing up in Mexico. And it wasn't until I came here that I like even remotely I'm vaguely familiar with that one. But I'm looking right here. Okay, apparently Maroon 5 had I don't know if it's a cover, Sex and Candy. And apparently it was in the series Billions from 2017. Apparently it was featuring that as well. But I wish I had more things to say about that song. I'm just unfortunately not super familiar with
Oh
it.
no, it's totally cool. Um
For
and
some reason,
but no, you
for some
didn't. By the
reason,
way, I'm sorry, go ahead.
for some reason, I'm looking up here like on Google, and like the fifth option of Sex and Candy is Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
You know what? Hey, this is a 90s podcast. Anytime anywhere that we're able to fit in Blood Sugar Sex Magic or the Chili Peppers, it's
Yeah.
it's it's permissible.
The
Um
chick kind of looks pretty cute though. Oh wait, no, that's his Ellen Page.
anyways,
Far away. Anyway.
so but no, like I don't feel bad about looking up. Like I got my list based off just kind of like looking at different like lists of not one hit wonders. So don't feel bad about that at all.
Yeah, of course.
Um, anyways, so tell me about your next honorable mention.
My next honorable mention, I think, speaking of Blood Sugar Sex Magic, I think you're gonna love that connection, and it's none other than Butterfly by Crazy Town.
Is that 90s?
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, look it up. I don't know if you want
I
to look
will.
up.
I will. I think I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, but just for my own
And I'm pretty sure it
sake.
popped up on those like Spotify playlists of 90s one hit wonders that I kept looking at.
Well, I typed in butterfly and then they're just telling me all the stuff about the insect. So that
Of
was
course. Yeah,
yeah.
you might want to be more specific.
Yeah. um
But just a little thing
yep.
about that
No, you're
song.
good. It came out in 99.
There you go. Yeah, yeah, just at the tail end of the century. And basically, yeah, like it was just weird because I never made the connection of the Chili Peppers. And for the people that don't know, like it's basically a sample, the guitar, like it's a sample from the song Pretty Little Ditty from their album Mother's Milk from 1989. And tell me if I'm incorrect in any of this.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess for Shanti, those have a little bit of honorable mention on this list in some capacity. But it's one of those songs that it just came playing in the background, be it like the radio or like it kind of that specific sound. And I don't know if it's partially, thankfully, to thanks to the new metal sound of the early 2000s, where it's kind of like don't want to say it has like a douchey connotation, but it's more like in the bro territory. Like, it has more in common with Limp
Oh no.
Bizkit.
Oh no. I love new metal. New metal is douchey as hell. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course. But it definitely has those vibes for like all the
Yeah.
conglomeration of hip hop, metal. and just bro vibes kind of came at the forefront for a while.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree with you, but no, I totally I remember when that song came out, man. That song was super catchy. I had no idea that it had anything to do with the Chili Peppers until like probably I think you might have told me that.
Did
Uh
I? I was just gonna
yeah,
say, I
cuz
thought you told
I
me
have
about it.
no idea cuz I was like I have no idea where I learned that from. So it had to be from you because it's obviously something that I knew.
Oh.
But all right. Anything else you want to add?
Oh, I mean, I can't say I know a lot about Crazy Town, but again, like I feel like they're more relevant to like the new metal scene, like more they have more Limp Bizkit than Chili Peppers vibes,
Oh
although
yeah, for
you
sure.
can tell it's the Chili Pepper influence is right there.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, the rap rock vibes, very Chili Pepper esque. So for the last honorable mention that I have is "Bitch" by Meredith Brooks. Do you know that song?
Oh, I think it's one of those that came up when I was like looking up
Yeah. Um, and so I'll tell you a little bit about it. So by the time 1997 rolled around, Oregonian singer-songwriter Meredith Brooks was already a seasoned veteran. She began her music career in 1976 as a teenager, playing in several bands before heading out to Los Angeles in the mid 80s to pursue a solo career. She finally had her big break, but not until 1995 when she was signed to Capitol Records. In 1997, Brooks released her first album, Blurring the Edges. The lead single, Bitch, a pop rock earworm, was co written with friend and accomplished singer songwriter Shelley Peiken. I hope I said that right. In addition to this single, Peiken has songwriting credits in monumentally successful pop songs, most notably What a Girl Wants and Come On Over Baby by the legendary Christina Aguilera. Pekin wrote the chorus in which Brooks proclaims, quote, "I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a mother, I'm a sinner, I'm a saint, I do not feel ashamed." The inspiration for that chorus came from Piken's frustration with the lack of commercial success as a songwriter up to that point, yet her boyfriend still loved her, despite, as she put it, quote, "I can be such a bitch." The song became a feminist anthem for its reclamation of a word heavily associated with its derogatory use. The song became a massive success, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and peaking in the top 10 in over 10 countries and receiving 2 Grammy nominations. I love this song because the song's accessible nature allows lyrics to focus on, or allows listeners to focus on the enunciated lyrics, which are super relatable. I love the message of, you know, loving our paradoxical and ever changing selves. Also, the chorus is just catchy as fuck. The main reason it was not on my Mount Rushmore is because I didn't discover the song until it was included on VH1's special, "The Greatest Songs of the '90s," and that was well into the 2000s. So I kind of feel I can't have a song on my Mount Rushmore that I don't remember actually hearing in the '90s. So that's my what I have to say about that song. And you said you don't know the song?
Uh, I gotta listen to it again, but I'm sure it's popped up on the playlist when I saw it. But thank you for mentioning the BH1 uh lists, the specials that they used to have air. Like I remember seeing one of the 90s one hit wonders once, and it had like Beck, like Looser. I'm pretty sure I even saw this when I was in Mexico. Like obviously Beck has many more hits. Like I couldn't have picked just one or Looser, because he's got more than one hit. But a couple of the songs that are like gonna be on my Mount Rushmore were definitely on that special. So it's ironic that you brought it up.
Yeah. Well, ironic. That's another great '90s song.
Hmm.
Um,
How dare
but
you?
uh, now it's now your turn. Tell me, what is your last honorable mention?
Oh, okay, okay. For my last honorable mention, it's none other than drum roll, please. I'm gonna have to choose Your Woman by Whitetown. Are you familiar with that one?
I don't know that song now, but
Uh,
tell me about it. Tell me about it.
it's very catchy. It's almost very sublime, actually. Like it has like very, very big ska reggae vibes, even though it's not directly ska when you think about it. And the reason I found, I'll give you a link afterwards, and you'll be like, oh yeah, definitely heard this one. Remember the Newgrounds? Were you a big Newgrounds kid?
No.
Yeah, like remember Flash animation games? Like on on the internet, the early days of the internet?
No.
Yeah, so these were like very popular games. Basically there was like this website called Newgrounds, and they were like flash animated games that like users made. And it was so cool because they were like free games. So there was like this one. Are you familiar with Mario Party at all?
Oh, of course.
Mario
Yeah, yeah,
Party,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So this was like the edgy Mario Party, and basically you can like you had a background of like a Mario level, and then you could like drag the characters and like put them in crazy like superimposed positions to make it seem like a party. But the biggest feat of this game was like it had a boombox, and you could like click different options, and it will give you like different sound samples of like different 90s songs, and that was one of them. And
Oh,
like
yeah.
as soon as I played it, I'm like, wait, what is this? It's so catchy. It was like the one of the first times I started getting into music, downloaded like the Hives, the Strokes, uh, whatever you want to call it. And like for the longest time, I never found that song. And I believe on the radio, on independent radio, it came about like fast forward 15 years later, or even 20 when Shazam is a thing now, and it's like, oh my God, here it is. It's like you never had that when you found like a relic. I call it a relic in time, a song that you once heard and you never hear again until like years later, and it's like finding gold. You found a gold mine.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Um,
So,
so we're gonna move on to now. We have gotten to we got our honorable mentions out of the way. We are getting into our Mount Rushmore of '90s one hit wonders. So the first face on my Mount Rushmore is gonna be "Kiss Me" by Sixpence None the Richer.
ooh.
Please tell me you know that song.
Yes.
Okay, thank God. But so anyway, so yeah, so it's by so Kiss Me is by Texan Christian band turned secular alt rock group Sixpence None the Richer. The song was written by their guitarist Matt Slocum. That's probably another name I've mispronounced. The song was written in a motel in the Netherlands. It was written during the day and performed that very night at the Christian music festival Flavo Festival in 1996 in Eindhoven, Netherlands. Um, the band was initially reluctant to record it because it was poppier than their earlier material. A pop rock ballad, it was released on their third self titled studio album from November of 1997. It was the song itself was finally released as a single in August of 1998. It peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in May of 1999, and it became the sixth highest selling single of all of 1999. It became a cultural phenomenon as it was featured in the very 90s show Dawson's Creek, as well as the film She's All That. Three videos of the song exist. The lyrics are just legit adorable. It's probably the most innocent love song I can think of. Lines like, quote, "Kiss me down by the broken tree house, swing me upon its hanging tire," still warm my heart. The band did have a couple other hits, most notably their cover of There She Goes by the Laws. That said, nothing even approximated the success and legacy of Kiss Me, which is why I consider it a one-hit wonder. I've included it on my Mount Rushmore of '90s one-hit wonders because the variations of the C chord and the tender lyrics that introduced me to the concept of love still give me the feels, perhaps more than any other song ever, let alone the '90s, let alone '90s one-hit wonders. So definitely for me, it was the representative of the song that gave me the feels and still does. But before I turn it over to you, Castillo, I just want to tell you this is what I was there. This is the one artist where like they're technically not a one hit wonder. Because that song, that cover I mentioned was like I think like 30 like number 35 in the Billboard Hot 100, but I felt there was such distance between their biggest hit and their second biggest that to me they're a one hit wonder.
I mean, they're one hit wonder in my book because I'm not familiar with the other song you said. And as soon as you said that, it took me like a split second to, and I'm like, oh yeah, 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 I know what you're talking about. And it's funny, like as soon as you said the name, like, oh, okay, like there's like imprints in your mind of how a song like sounds specifically that it's like you don't even have to listen to the song and it's already playing in your head. You know what I mean? Like it's like memorized. It's like
Yeah,
right now, like it's just gonna be stuck in your head forever and ever.
right. Oh yeah,
Which
Kiss
is
Me Dead is
it,
definitely an earworm, that's for sure.
yeah, which could be a form of torture if you think about it. It's never gonna leave your brain. It's interesting. Like 1999 was such a wild year. You said 99, right?
Well, so the song itself, it was released on the album in 97, released as a
Hmm.
single in 98, and then and I think it ultimately hit its highest. It became like its most popular in 99. So it was a long journey to get there, but yes, 99 was definitely was when the song really caught the airwaves or hit the airwaves, if you
Yeah,
will.
it's funny. It's funny how I don't think you could have that as much now, where you have songs that like became failures at first and then they became hits again.
Well,
Uh,
it wasn't necessarily it was a failure. I just think because I don't think it was the first single on the
uh,
album, and I just think it took some time to marinate. You know what I
hmm
mean?
Or at least songs that become hits in that sense.
Yeah, or like songs that might maybe take a little bit of time to like develop, in
Yeah,
terms of like popularity.
yeah. I feel like now with TikTok, it's gotta be like, okay, if it's a new song, it's gotta be like that. It's gotta go unless it's like an old song that existed pre-TikTok. If it's a new song now, I could be wrong about this, but it's so much harder now to re-release
Yeah.
something and have it
Well,
catch on. That's
well,
new.
that's an episode idea, like the whole music culture of TikTok, because that's I'm not really on TikTok,
Hmm.
but I do know like there are like huge hits that are strictly from TikTok. So I don't.
That's how the new hits are being made now. It's like we're not gonna go on a tangent about like, oh, now it's more about image and this and that than like substance, but it's definitely interesting how, oh yeah, here's an algorithm and the algorithm dictates how popular a song is. But anyway, it's a 90s
Yeah.
podcast, not a 2000s and beyond.
Exactly, exactly. So what's the first face on your Mount Rushmore of 90s one hit wonders?
Oh man, so I just realized I actually have five that are like very good ones, and I can throw the last one at the end just like as another
Yeah.
mention. But I guess if I were to choose for my first Mount Rushmore, like big one, because the other songs are I guess bigger, it will be. Are you ready for this?
Hmm.
Do you need a drum roll? Or just say it.
No, you can just say it. We don't. We don't.
You
I don't
get
have
what
a. I don't
you
have a.
get.
I mean, I could use my desk. Oh yeah, look at that.
You
Look at
get
that.
what you get by the New Radicals.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I love that song.
Yeah, the reason I chose that song, I feel like it's got a resurface, like it's got
Res,
like a new life now since the
Resurgence.
pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like it became popular during the pandemic. I
Well, you know why, right?
because it was like a happy song and everybody was like dreadful and mournful and everybody wanted to be happy.
No, well, I mean, maybe, but I
I
think
guess you get what you get.
the New Radicals reunited and performed that song at Joe Biden's inauguration. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, on like some kind of like radio show or somewhere. Yeah, I remember seeing it.
yeah.
Because Michael, singer of my band, shout out Hadley's Hope, is obsessed with that
Oh
song
wait,
and
wait, hold on. We got to plug. We got to where can we find Hadley's Hope? Because I know you guys are everywhere. Where can we find all the things?
everywhere. Literally, you said it, Spotify, Apple
Yeah.
Music, iTunes, we're even on TikTok, Instagram. Hadley's Hope, HADLEYSHOPE.
Okay, so we got the shameless plug out of the way. Continue.
And yeah, no, like they re-released their single, like basically they re-uploaded it as in a 4K file on YouTube, and since COVID, it kind of gave it like it's more in the zeitgeist recently for sure. And I mean, what a song! What a song! What a video! I feel like that style. I mean, when I think 90s, it's that song. It's positive, it's catchy. You can't really write a song like that nowadays. It has like not even. It's not techno, but I want to say like 90s electronica
Yeah,
a little bit.
it's got hella like power pop slash like meets like U2 vibes.
Exactly. Exactly. And I really don't know any other songs that like they have. Like, I mean, that's pretty much it when it comes to that
Yeah,
band.
I couldn't tell you that. I mean, and the thing is, it's funny you mentioned that like the song kind of had a resurgence because I didn't know about this song until the pandemic. When it like
Interesting.
was coming on my Spotify daily mixes. So yeah, that's kind of wild.
And I'm pretty sure that song was in that VH1 90s One Hit Wonder special. Pretty sure. That's how I found out about it first and foremost. Okay, well, that's it. First one.
Awesome, awesome. I'm glad. I'm so happy that you said a song that I knew because I was
How do you think
like,
I've
okay,
been?
I can actually, engage in your spiel.
Have a piece
So
of your mind? Yeah.
the next tech, I think this song is gonna be on your list. This next one,
Mm.
it might. I don't know. I don't know. So I got "What's Up" by the Four Non Blondes.
You son of a gun. Son of a bitch.
It's on there.
It is, but remember I had an extra one. I can just
Okay.
replace it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me more about the
But
song.
then
I've never heard the song.
so I'll tell you more about it. So
Yeah.
so Four Non Blondes, like it's not the four, it's just Four Non Blondes. Started in San Francisco in 1989 as an all-female band fronted by Linda Perry, who as an artist is anything but a one-hit wonder, and I'll touch on that in a bit. Lineup changes uh, caused their original guitarist Shauna Hall to be replaced by Roger Roca, thus ending the identity as an all-female band. The band only released one studio album, and that album, Bigger, Better, Faster, More, with an exclamation point. Very importantly, know about the exclamation point. It was released in October of 1992 and peaked at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 200 albums charts. Um, the song has become an LGBT anthem as three members that performed on the album identify as lesbian. Additionally, it's identified as such due to the lyrics in which Perry wishes for a revolution and laments the presence of the patriarchy. The song has alternative rock, pop rock, and folk rock vibes. While the song derives its name from the recurring line "What's going on," the band named it "What's Up" to avoid confusion with Marvin Gaye's iconic 1971 tune/album "What's Going On." The song became massively successful internationally and domestically. It hit number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was the 50th most successful single on the Billboard Hot 100 in the year 1993. The song has been both ridiculed and loved for the bombastic nature in which Perry sings parts of the song, most notably the chorus. None of the other singles from Four Non Blondes charted on the Billboard Hot 100, so they're a band that is just or in every sense of the term, is a one hit wonder. Um, Before I kind of go into why I included this on my Mount Rushmore, I think Linda Perry has done like a lot of songwriting. I'm blanking on some of the artists. I think she did stuff with Pink. Let me
Hmm.
see. Linda Perry songwriting because
You said
oh
93.
and also Christina
Oh,
Aguilera. I think she wrote Beautiful by Christina Aguilera. Let's see what
oh,
else did
oh,
she
wow.
did. She did more. Oh, she did a song by Gwen Stefani. She did a song by Celine Dion.
Oh, wow.
Um, she did a song by she wrote a song for Solange.
Oh, wow.
She did a song for Hole. She wrote a
Hmm.
song for Alicia Keys. So while Four Non Blondes might have been a one hit wonder, Linda Perry certainly is an icon in her own right. But for me, what I love about this song, like I just love the song for its silliness. While the meaning of the tune is beautiful and brave, the acoustic guitar sounds like a novice kid guitar player practicing some four chord song. And while I love it, Perry sounds like she's singing karaoke after a few cocktails.
Hmm.
So kind of encompassing, the silly nature of childhood, especially the early the early times of that. Yeah, Castillo, what do you got to say about what's up?
It's definitely one of those ultimate karaoke slash cover songs. We're actually gonna cover it at our next show, actually. And by the way, 93, how old were you in 93?
That's the year I was born.
There you
Um, so
go.
I have no idea when I heard this for the first time, but I definitely heard this in the '90s. Like I this is one of
Yes.
those songs I don't really remember life without this song. You know what I mean?
Yes. Same for me. It's one of those songs that will be in the background, will come on like my dad's playlist or whenever he had like people together and I'd be a kid running around. They'll have friends over and then it'd just be like in the background. And yeah, for the longest time I never knew what that song was. And it was one of those that like kind of got faded away. It was It kind of came and went, forgot about it. And then, yeah, I kind of researched again. I don't know if you know the show Sense8 or ever heard of the show Sense8.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it was by the Wachowski brothers, I guess sisters now. And it was actually featuring the show. Like it's very, yeah, I guess you could say the feminist vibes on that song are very, very high. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very good song. And tell me if there's been another massive hit with the same chords playing over and over.
Oh well, there's probably been
The
many,
chord
but
doesn't
yeah,
end.
but it's mainly like that acoustic guitar, and it's very choppy. That like the acoustic
Mhm.
guitar in the beginning, and then like the way that her voice gets in the chorus and whatnot. It's like that's something that if she had performed that on American Idol, Simon would have
Oh.
been quite derisive in his response. So
Hmm.
so it was really cool that that song became such a hit. But even like with all of the blemishes on it, if you will, like to me it's still a great song, and you know I always feel good when I hear it.
Yeah, it's one of those songs that picks you up. Like you can't have a negative thought when that song comes on. That song literally, not to get corny, speaking of Bonnaroo earlier, like radiates positivity, literally. There you go.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a very positive
So
song.
maybe
What do you?
Bonnaroo ought to reunite them. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
We know that's never gonna happen with Live
Yeah.
Nation. Too
So
soon.
what do you have? What do you have as
Hmm.
your second Mount Rushmore, or your second song on your Mount Rushmore?
Okay, so I could put this song at number one, even number two, but the reason I'm putting it at number three is because I feel like two and the first one I'm gonna choose are more relevant to my life. So I
Mm-hmm.
never really heard this song when it was like first coming out, when it first came out, or growing up in Mexico or anything. Like, had it not been for that VH1 special, I will have never heard of it. And it's No Rain by Blind Melon.
Oh, awesome. Well, we talked all about that song.
Mhm. I know you.
I had a whole
Mhm.
episode. Well, not a whole episode, but I spent quite a bit of time on one episode talking about Blind Melon. And so yeah. What are your thoughts on that song?
I was surprised that I had never heard of it because they were playing along the video with the little girl in the bee outfit, um,
Yeah.
gl- the little girl with glasses.
Hmm.
It was such a cute little song, kind of like in the same vein as like a lot of the like Four Non Blondes and a lot of the one hit wonders from the 90s, or a lot of songs from the 90s that is not Nirvana or grunge. That's depressing. Depressing in a good way, of course. But yeah, very positive, of course, that like guitar is super catchy. Is that a guitar?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Or is that like a slide guitar? No.
I don't. I think it's just a guitar. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was not supposed to be, am I wrong? And assuming it wasn't gonna be a single at first? I could be making that up.
Not that I remember. I mean, not that I remember. When I was doing research about it.
It was something that I saw along those lines that it's like they had another song as an idea first for another single, and then when that didn't chart, they were like, okay, let's just go with this one, and apparently, it became the biggest thing since hot dogs.
All right.
But
Now I'm really ending this podcast. The biggest thing since hot dogs.
there, but I mean, I cannot think of a more. Because I was looking at a lot of different songs, and it's like, well, what makes this song? What will make this song be my Mount Rushmore? You can name me a bunch of songs, Toadies, Stone Temple Pilots, not necessarily one-hit wonders, but this song right here, I cannot think of a better written melody as well as structure for a one-hit wonder or just a
Yeah.
song
No,
overall.
it's an incredibly catchy song, and I think going back to like if this was going to be on my list, this would have been the song that I would include, just the song that I think overall is just a great song, because I think this is a song that holds up. I think the lyrics are beautiful, the guitar is
Hmm.
great. It's like bluesy, it's folky, it's yeah, it's a fantastic song. I'm glad that I know Shannon Hoon had like a lot of tumult and turmoil in his life, but I'm glad that he got to at least enjoy some success, from that song because it really is an iconic song.
Did he write it from a very dark place in his life?
I mean, his song's about depression.
Makes sense.
So yeah.
I- if it wasn't because of this song, I mean, let's be honest, nobody will remember or know who Blind Melon is.
Well, that I would agree with that. I mean, I think they had some other songs that were like minor rock. They would be like Toadies. You know what I mean? It's like okay, yeah, they had like that song that was kind of like a little bit of a rock hit, but no, that they have that song kind of etched them into like '90s lore. So,
And it has such
um,
a different edge that it's like you can even think that maybe REM could have written the song, but it doesn't sound why am I blanking on REM, the singer? It's Chris
Michael Stipe.
Michael Stipe. What? Michael Stipe. There you go. Not Chris Stapleton.
But man, if that is a duo that's a collab I would love to hear. Chris Stapleton with REM.
No, that'd be something.
So for my you have anything, I'm sorry, before I get into the next one, is there anything you'd like to
No,
add?
no, no. That's it. That's it.
Um,
It's such a catchy, positive song, and
oh
it
yeah, it's
um
it's gorgeous. Yeah.
it has like a little bit of everything, like even like a little Steely Dan like tap room, kind of like
Yeah. It yeah,
not
it
burlesque.
definitely they
Kind of
definitely
catchy.
brought I'm sorry.
No, that's all. Yeah.
I was gonna say like they definitely brought classic rock to the '90s, that's for sure.
Hmm.
Or like they brought Woodstock '69. Well, it made sense they
Nice.
played at Woodstock '94, but anyways, let's not go down that rabbit hole. So I know you were saying that like, oh, I didn't want to put this number one, I wanted to put it number three, whatever. So I actually didn't put it in like order of my favorite. I was just like, oh, okay, here are the four faces on my Mount Rushmore. So
Right.
um so I chose my next one is the song that makes me dance. I chose Jump Around by House of Pain.
Ooh. Okay.
Um, so House of Pain was a hip hop trio founded in 1991 in Los Angeles, California, and consisted of Danny Boy O'Connor, better known just as Danny Boy, Everlast, and DJ Lethal. DJ Lethal went on to do turntables for a group I don't think I've ever heard of. I don't think you might know them. They're called Limp Bizkit. I don't know.
Hmm. Never.
Um, Now, the group met at William Howard Taft High School, very appropriate, as he was a president, in the San Fernando Valley. Other alumni of that school include Lisa Kudrow, who played Phoebe in Friends, Eazy-E, and Ice Cube. The band would dress, the band kind of became known as a quote unquote, Irish group because they would dress in Irish flags and Boston Celtics paraphernalia. The upbeat hip hop song that we were talking about, Jump Around, was written by Everlast. It was released in May of 1992. It was the first single of their self titled debut release. The song samples Harlem Shuffle by Bob and Earl, as well as Chubby Checkers' Popeye the Hitchhiker. The origin of the song's famous horn screech, you know what I'm talking about, the horn screech
Oh
Castillo?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Has never been revealed, but many think it's either a sample of Prince or Junior Walker. The song
Oh,
became a mega hit, peaking at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. The success of the song lends itself in part due to its successful video, in which the duo performs enthusiastically at an Irish themed bar. Additionally, the video is interspersed with clips of the 1992 St. Patty's Day parade in New York. The success of the video and other Irish imagery using the group's image made them synonymous with Irish American culture, as I alluded to earlier. The song's presence in the larger entertainment scene is exemplified by its inclusion in blockbuster films such as Mrs. Doubtfire, Kiss of Death, Black Hawk Down, Jack Reacher, and Rush Hour.
hmm.
Danny Boy described the song as, quote, "It's the kind of shit you can put a lampshade on your head and act like an idiot to."
Perfectly summarized.
Yeah. While three of the hip hop group's subsequent singles entered the Billboard Hot 100, they didn't get any higher than 65, which, this is to me why they are definitely one hit wonder. For me, very few songs make me want to dance, and that screeched horn might be a top 10 catchy aspect of a 90s song, up there with
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain's palm muting and the riff of Smells Like Teen Spirit, and the
Hmm.
opening Fuck Up by Billy Joe Armstrong on Good Riddance.
Hmm.
Very few 90s songs have the quote unquote let's peacefully rage vibes that Jump Around has. So yeah, that's my spiel on jump around. Your thoughts?
I definitely thought it was an 80s song, first of all. It definitely kind of has like the tail end of the 80s into like what will become the 90s hip hop, I feel. More like
Yeah,
the rap.
it's definitely
Uh,
like that early white boy hip hop
right. And like I would
vibe.
have never thought they were from Ireland. Like I would
Well,
have thought,
they're not. They're Irish American. Oh, I don't think they're. I think they're all from like they're probably like first second generation Irish Americans.
but I would have never thought like Ireland, you know? Like
Yeah,
I would
I didn't know that either. That was something I
uh,
learned. Yeah.
and you know what? Now that I think about it, you know the song Jungle Boogie? It was like on Pulp Fiction and like Jungle Boogie.
Yeah.
Forgot who sings, but it kind of has that same style, like similarity. Yeah, that song's been around, and that horn sample has never been found. They can't trace it, the origin.
Well, I think it's like no one knows for sure. So there's like
That
different
is
camps that have
incredible.
yeah. They don't nobody knows for sure, but they're like different theories. I think
Maybe not even the original artist knows, and think of how many royalties they've been
yeah.
screwed over with.
Well, they might have. I have no idea how that really works, but like, I wonder if they swore it to secrecy. It's like, yeah, we'll give you royalties, but don't don't tell anyone where this is from. I don't.
Yeah, it's funny because it keeps popping up. You go to a club, and eventually you're bound to hear. Ding, ding, ding. And I feel like the modern equivalent, at least for like a while, maybe 10 years ago, was like the like the Bubusela, like Lil Wayne, like that type of horn sound, like it's kind of like I will say that's like the evolution of that horn sound. Like if it wasn't because of Jump Around, you wouldn't have had those kind of like
Wait.
hip.
What are you saying? I'm not familiar with the Lil Wayne song that you're referring to, and the
It's like a
phrasing.
bunch of songs where like eventually they'll play like fucking horn, like in the background. Like it's in a lot of hip hop,
So,
at least
yeah,
for the past.
send me an example of that because like it's on the I'm trying to get there, but it's still kind of vaguely in my mind what you're referring to.
Yeah.
But I take your word for it because I mean I know that like House of Pain was obviously incredibly influential in 90s hip hop.
So we can
So
at least agree that thanks to that song, adding horns was cool, right? On
sure, sure,
on
we'll
hip
go with
hop.
that. All
At
right,
least
so let's go. What is the third song on your Mount Rushmore?
okay. So after much thought and preamble, it's gotta be none other than Stop Thumping, Chumbawamba. Bam.
What? I feel like I saw that song
Oh,
mentioned, but
oh,
I don't think I can put like a sound to the
oh, you
name.
know this. You know this. I get knocked down, get
Oh,
up again. You never
What's the
let
name
me
of the song?
down.
What's it called?
Thump thumping. That's like your
Oh, okay.
thumping.
If the name of the song was "I Get Knocked Down," I would have known in 2 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Yeah,
you would have thought he was like thump thumping, parentheses, I get knocked down or something
yeah.
like that.
Well, I remember when I was a kid, and the song would come on the radio. I remember when my mom would always, she would never change the channel. She would always turn it up because she loved the message of it.
Which is,
Like, I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down.
yeah, I guess so. It's a very
Yeah.
simple but yet effective. And like, dude, I mean, everywhere. Like, I remember as a child, just like going to like family gatherings and like, I have this very fun memory, right? I was at my cousin Luis's house. Shout out Luis. And all the older cousins are bored. So it's like, okay, so what can we do, as a kid? Oh yeah, let's put on a stage show for the dads, for the moms, for everybody. So we came up with this like choreography over that song. And at some point, you just kind of like, I was super shy as a kid. I could not dance like at the family, at the school recitals for Mother's Day, like anything. I was like always super shy, trying to hide. So of course I didn't dance. But as a kid, you kind of get overcome with jealousy over like, oh, look how everybody is loving my cousins. So I remember kind of like having like a toy lawnmower or like a little cart and just like kind of like sneaking into the background and just like rolling back and forth and like popping up on the background to that song. And yeah, just having such fun memories of that song. Like it's like
Yeah.
when you think of the 90s, it's that song.
Well, I feel
Stop.
like that song. What do you know what year that came out?
I don't have the the date, but I want to say it was like late 90s, like maybe
Y-
97, 98.
Yeah,
I
that's
look it
that's
up
kind of
right
what I'm
now if you want
that's
to
what
get.
I'm thinking. And I think the reason that both of us have such fond memories, I feel like that's probably, because we're not obviously that far in age, just like 10 months or so. So I
Hmm.
think that both we were kind of at that point where everything is new and exciting. We're 5, 6 years
Yes.
old, and but
97, by the way.
yeah, so that checks out.
By the way, the cover will always freak me out with like I don't even know, a purple guy or baby. It kind of reminds me of like Crazy Frog, but it's like a purple baby. Yeah,
Yeah,
creepy. It's very creepy.
yeah,
And also very 90s, that like font, like green color with like purple, or green background with like a purple superimposition,
yeah.
and then the font Chumbawamba. It's just like incredible. And also, I didn't know it had an outro until I was like re-listening to it recently for the podcast.
Hmm.
And I'm like, wait, what? Like the song is fading, and then there's like a secret, I don't know, outro that maybe it was like a not on the radio edit, and I was like mind blown. It's like an Easter
Yeah.
egg. Yeah.
Um, anything else you want to add about what's the name of the song? What's the actual name of the song again?
Tub thump. No, wait. Tub thumping.
Tub thumping. Is there
Tub
anything
thump.
else you want to add about tub thumping?
Not really. I think I've said everything I gotta say about that. It's a cool song. It's just, I mean, legendary. Can't think of
Yeah.
another song. I mean, how many movies, how many, like,
Oh yeah.
I feel like every song now, pop song that's a one-hit wonder or that's famous, it's a little corny, if it's like, not to say names, but I mean, this song might be a little corny, but it's almost like a bro anthem, like, yo, let's go, like, take off your shirt and let's go, route to the races.
Is that how you envision bros? Let's just take off our shirt and go to the races.
No, I picture more Joe Rogan just taking off his
That's
shirt and
fair. That's fair. That you
look at
know
that
what?
song.
That you're not wrong. I wasn't gonna say that you're wrong. I just wanted to get your perception. Um,
Like that should be
yeah,
Vince theme song. Anyways.
yeah. Um, so are you ready for the last one? And this is gonna have to get a drum roll because this is the song that I chose that I just thought was a great song. So essentially, this is, if you want to say, this is my number one.
All right.
Even though I didn't really think of it that way, but I guess if we're gonna put numbers on them.
I'm holding my breath.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I get a drum roll?
My body is ready.
All right. All right. I'll do the drum roll then, I guess.
There you go.
All right. I drove Groove is in the Heart by D Light.
Oh, good one.
Thank you. So let me tell you a little bit about it. And this is actually the oldest, I think the oldest song. I think it came out in
Mm.
1990. But anyways, so D Light, the multinational dance trio formed in New York City in 1986 when American singer who goes by the stage name Lady Miss Keir and her boyfriend Ukraine-born Dmitry Brill started writing songs, with the latter going by DJ Dmitry after routinely frequenting NYC nightclubs upwards of 5 times a week. The lineup was finalized in 1998 when Japanese-born DJ Tawatai or Tawate um, joined the group as their producer and made the duo a trio. Early in their career, Delight made a name for themselves locally with performances at all kinds of clubs, both gay and straight clubs. Their live performances were marked by unique outfit designed by Lady Miss Keir herself. She's a designer, so she would design her own outfits. The buzz surrounding their gigs led to a bidding war among record companies, with Elektra coming out victorious. The
Hmm.
band's eclectic mix of musical backgrounds made for a dynamic sound. Regarding their diverse music backgrounds, this is prominent in the 1990 hit single, the song of the hour, Groove is in the Heart. Through Sample Delia, the single combines hip hop, dance, pop, funk, and jazz. The song samples Herbie Hancock and Vernon Birch and includes performances on the actual track of Bootsy Collins of P Funk, who played backing vocals, and the rapper Q-Tip of A Tribe Called Quest did a guest verse. Apparently, Q-Tip came up with the entirety of his verse in 15 minutes after hearing the song for the first time in the studio. Um,
Won't surprise me.
yeah, Kier said, "I wrote Bootsy a fan letter and included our demo around 1998. It included the song Groove is in the Heart. He called back and left a message saying if we ever got a record deal, he would be up for some sessions. I was jumping up and down." That's the story of how Bootsy Collins ended up playing on the track. Again, did backing vocals. The song was released as the lead single from their debut album World Click in August of 1990 and peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song also became a top 10 hit in Australia, Ireland, New Zealand, the UK, and the Netherlands. Of all the one hit wonders of the 90s, I think this tune is the most ambitious and daring. The maximalism and dynamics are ballsy as hell. The chorus is catchy, but it's the interesting nature of the unpredictability of the song that makes it a true legend. So those are my thoughts on Groove is in the Heart. What are your thoughts on that song, Castillo?
Dude, I remember it was one of those LimeWire songs that I found, and it was just like change everything. How did I not think of that song? Maybe because I assume it was older than that,
It's yeah, it
maybe.
sounds it's got 80s vibe because I mean it came out in
Throwback.
1990, so yeah.
Right. And it has like 70s and yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the sampling it kind of includes a little bit of everything. That's
Yeah.
might be why it's such a timeless song.
Yeah. Does it say which Herbie Hancock song they sampled?
I mean, I'm sure it does, but I don't. I mean, I'm not a Herbie. I don't. I'm not really too familiar with Hancock's discography, so I couldn't identify a name with the song. So yeah, I don't know.
That's funny because I was just reminiscing on him actually earlier at work today. Yeah, I mean, what can be said that hasn't been said already that you mentioned? I mean, Q-Tip, Genius. Um, I feel like he's got to be up there with like a contender for rapper, like cameo rapper appearance in like a bunch of songs. Bootsy Collins, legendary. The video is so groovy. Like tell me why when you were talking about him, I kept having Black Eyed Peas pop in my head. I almost like they were kind of like the pre-thesis for the Black Eyed Peas or
Yeah,
that
that's a really
formation
interesting
formula.
connect.
Even though they don't sound like Black
Yeah,
Eyed Peas at all.
yeah. Well, I guess it's like you kind of have like hit.
The hot chick and
Well, I mean, you have like the mix of genders. You have like it's
exactly.
very electronic based.
Very hip hoppity.
It's
Pretty
yeah, it's
hoppity.
kind of like it blends pop and hip hop, and also there's like some funk. Yeah, I definitely say you have like a lot of genre bending. Fronted by the girl and the kind of the backing band, if you will, are dudes. So I can definitely there's on the Venn diagram there is certainly some overlap.
They definitely concocted a bunch of sounds and it has a very friendly mainstream sound, but unlike Black Eyed Peas, they didn't sell out.
But
Ooh.
but um but it's interesting. It's like yes, it's very accessible, but it's not a traditional pop song. I mean, you
Mhm.
have literally like two very stark sections of the song. And all of a sudden it ends and it comes back to that riff, which I'm sure is a sample. So it really is a really ambitious song. And so that's why like to me I would just define it as just a great song. It's not formulaic. It didn't kind
Mhm.
of go by a recipe to create a multi-mega hit like some other songs in the 90s. I think it was just like these people wanted to make really good music and they did.
It's the most non-traditional hit that you can think from the 90s. Like it sounds so different because no other hit. I feel like in the 90s you can tell a particular song other than maybe Jump Around because it sounds like the 90s, right? It's like happy, maybe it's happy but not too or it could be depressing but not too depressing. It's
Yeah.
like it sounds bright and that's the one song that you can have is like, oh yeah, it's a throwback song. And it could have come out in the 70s, even the 60s, right? You know what's funny? I actually have the single, the 45 LP. It's not even an 45, it's a 33, but I found it at Goodwill at the used bin section for like 99 cents.
Wait, what
Funny 'cause, like
of what song of what record?
Groove is in the Heart.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I have the single, and I don't know how. It's the only probably single I have in my collection. I didn't even think about it. It's just like I do a lot of sampling, as you know. Um,
Yeah. Well, that's why
And
I figured. That's why like I was excited to
uh-huh,
mention Sampledelia, or Sampledelia. I don't know how you pronounce it, but
uh-huh.
because that's what you do. So for those of you, just another shameless plug, but this time it's from me. I'm gonna shout out Castillo is a really interesting producer. And so yeah, tell people a little bit real quick about your kind of solo stuff that you do
I just like
outside of
to
Hadley's Hope.
I just like to sample everything I grew up or anything that sounds good. I do everything through my iPad. Don't want to say which kind of like a good magician never reveals its secrets. So, but yeah, basically the hashtag is Warlock, the tag Warlock all caps underscore 1669. That's the most recent channel I have. I have a couple of other free accounts that I have on SoundCloud, Wirelock underscore 23. But 1669 is like the ultimate, like the most recent one because I'm not paying for SoundCloud.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Maybe that's why I
So
haven't really built a fan base too, but hey, gotta start.
so so now
Just pretty
last but
quick,
not least, what's that?
pretty quick. No, the reason I said sampling is because you can not only is it featuring a lot of samples, but you can definitely sample a bunch of like you can sample basically any section of that song and
Yeah.
still it will still be catchy, still be make sense.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Um so now the moment that we've all been
Oh,
waiting
let's
for.
see.
This is, I guess, your number one. So I'm excited to hear what is your last face on your Mount Rushmore of 90s one hit wonders.
So I want to make a disclaimer because like the song it's a one hit wonder, but it might be too obscure for some people, even for you. I know it's a Spanish speaking song. I'm trying to get more hints. It's kind of like
I think I know what you're gonna say.
yeah, it's kind of like TikTok before TikTok, in a way, and it's kind of like meme before memes were a thing. Pretty quick before I give my piece on that, you know what I just thought about? Pretty quick, talking about sampling. Aren't memes samples in visual form, images?
All right, ADD boy, let's stick to the let's stick to the topic at hand.
All right, number one, none other but the one and only Macarena by Los Ríos.
Hey, Macarena.
Ay,
All right. So tell us about the Macarena, because that is the Macarena. Doing that dance is a stable is a was a huge part of the childhood for sure.
oh, geez. I mean, what can be said that hasn't been said already about Macarena? It's again, it's like TikTok before TikTok. It was like the preamble before TikTok. It kind of foretold everything that it was gonna be, like what it will take to have a one hit or just a hit on like social media. You need a catchy song, a catchy dance, yada yada yada. And tell me why. Okay, it kind of goes with the theme, like some stuff that goes viral, be it like a YouTube video or stuff like that. You're like, how is this viral, right? Well, how is this song like? Would you disagree? It's okay if you don't think it's the number one, um, one hit wonder as I thought, but it's got to be in the top 10 at least.
Well, I remember the VH1 did their like 100 greatest one hit wonders, and this was number one, the
What?
Macarena. Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, I mean, it just tells you. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's like if he comes on the radio, I can't say, oh, I gotta park, I gotta park on the side of the road and finish listening to the song or anything, but it definitely transcended the zeitgeist. And tell me what other one hit wonder has the level of the cultural relevance that he had at his time, be it the dance, be it the song. And I guess it's not a one hit, like it's not my number one in the sense like it's a the best song in
Yeah.
here,
Like a song that you're gonna like be listening to just on a casual Tuesday afternoon.
right, like I would prefer song two. I would prefer tough thumping. You get what you give. No Rain are definitely better songs, but this one has everything. Like everything else that this song lacks in terms of songwriter deepness, whatever you want to call it. Everything else around it makes up for it. Be it the dance, be it oh man, so many things
Well,
about it.
I think it also just captures it. it captures that
home.
zeitgeist, that like
Mhm.
90s zeitgeist.
Yeah.
And it really, like, to me, it really embodies the 90s one hit wonder, you know? And that dance, for anyone that's what, I think anyone that's a millennial is gonna know if somebody starts doing the dance, they're gonna know that's the Macarena, even if there's no music accompanying it. Of
Oh
course,
yeah.
of course, if somebody's dancing to that with no music, they're gonna look like a fool. But you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. And I wonder how many, I wonder if like somebody like Gen Z were to bring it back. Like they tried to like they stole the moves. And it's one of those things that is like you can really because somebody will point it out. Maybe not a Gen Zer, but somebody will see it and be like, hey, that's just the Macarena. You're just trying to rip it off because it's that iconic.
Yeah.
Like
Well, yeah,
YMCA.
it's yeah. I guess because like the YMCA, well, that was like 70s, right? That came out in the 70s.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's like I would say that's a really good. I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I feel like that's for our generation. That's like our YMCA. You know.
But I feel like it kind of, tell me if I'm wrong, like it kind of, people kind of forgot about it. Like if you tell people like, oh yeah, of course, you bring it up, people, oh yeah, of course, the Macarena, but it
Well,
kind of faded
yeah.
recently.
Well, aren't the lyrics like kind of vulgar? And I think people didn't really realize that because obviously
Oh yeah,
it's not in English.
yeah, I guess now that I think about it in retrospect, it's a little problematic, but I mean, what wasn't in the 90s, you know?
That's true. That's true.
Which, by
Um,
the way, we're in the 90s. It's funny how everything comes in cycles. Like, speaking of the cultural content of the and the message, things that were popular in the 90s, how it kind of came as a response of the 80s, where it was like a more conservative, you had Reagan saying no to drugs. And then here comes the 90s, and it's like, okay, everything that the 80s are not, that's what the 90s are. And how, like, throughout the decades, it's kind of like a balance. It starts going to one side of the balance and the other.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, also, I mean, there's so many songs that came out in the '80s that were pretty risque, if you will. But I get what you're saying. Like, there's probably certain aspects of the '90s that was a response to the '80s. But I mean, because what's the name of the group that is Macarena?
Los del Rio, like a
Los del
Spanish
Rio.
group.
They're from Spain, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Um,
think of how many people, if that song came out now, how many people will download Duolingo just to see
yeah.
learn
There's
Spanish?
I don't think you're gonna get any of the words from that song in Duolingo, but anyways, all right, man. Do you have any other comments on the Macarena?
I just hope I can write something as good as La Macarena, be in Spanish or English or in
There you
French.
go. Well, if you listen, yeah. But anyways, Alejandro Castillo. I know I like to call you Castillo. Everyone else calls you Alejandro, so we'll just call you Alejandro Castillo now.
My
Thank you
name.
so much for doing this. I know we've been talking for a long time about getting you on the podcast, so I'm glad we were able to find a topic that you felt comfortable discussing, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, definitely got to get you back on at some point. That's for sure.
Finally, we did it. Finally, we've been talking a lot about it because I've been telling you, I've been bugging you about like, oh, when are you gonna have me on the podcast? Like, be a Radiohead or be it in any other capacity. So and yeah, like I know I'm like not the easiest person to work with in terms of like, okay, we're gonna meet at this time to record it. So I appreciate you for just being a good friend, of course, throughout the years, and for putting up with all my BS. You're a true friend.
I appreciate it, and I always tell people you are a phenomenal friend. So, and
Thank you,
which
brother.
is exemplified by your presence and your performance on this episode. So, thank you so much, much love, and take care, my guy.
You can't see, you're not seeing me right now on the camera, but I'm literally raising my glass to you and to the people listening to this podcast right now.
Well,
So,
I'm glad you're drinking.
well, it's seltzer.
All
So,
right, well, it's something.
yeah,
All right,
after a
man.
whole weekend of just,
Yeah,
music and just festival, I'm like, yeah, I need
yeah.
to
Let's
stay
take it
sober for a
easy.
little bit.
All right, all right, my guy. All right, have a good one.
Love you, brother. Take care.
Love you too. Bye.
Catch you on the flip side.
Thanks, y'all, so much for listening, and a special thanks to Alejandro Castillo for being a terrific guest. Y'all have a great rest of your day, and whatever it brings, hopefully music is involved. Again, I'm Dove Brenner, and this is Hotcakes from a 90s Stand. Take care.